The coloring of perceptions. By adhering strictly to Christendom's canonized, that is, when the disciples and apostles of the Messiah were changing too much within the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire outlawed their religion. They outlawed them. And so they created a creed, the Nicene Creed, which made illegal everything that true followers of the Messiah would practice. Communal living. So any intentional communities were outlawed, regulated, and we see that today with zoning, property rights, and things like that. It is very difficult to just, even your relative, your close relative, your father, your daughter, your son, your mother, your cousin, comes upon hard times, and you can't let them come live in your house or your apartment because your rental agreement says you have to pay extra, or you can only have so many people occupying that living space. And saying the Creator's name in public, it just outlawed followers of the Messiah. And Gay said, if you want to worship the Messiah, you have to call him by this name. You have to observe these feasts. And we know from Mount Sinai, when they made that golden calf and said, this is our Creator, we're going to worship him because we haven't heard from Moses. We're scared, we're alone, we're without direction in this wild place. We don't know how to take care of ourselves. So we're going to create an image of the Creator, and we're going to worship him just like we did the gods in Egypt, so he will respond, because that's how the gods in Egypt reportedly responded when you created an idol and you performed orgies and all kinds of practices, rituals. So adopting pagan feasts and putting our Creator and his Son's name on those feasts, no, death. There is no, I can celebrate Christmas because I'm thinking about the birth of the Messiah. Well, when you think about the birth of the Messiah, it's not snowmen and sleigh rides. Wrong time of year. And are you really acknowledging him by acknowledging a falsehood about him? So somebody tells a lie about me, and then somebody else says, oh, I like her, I'm going to join in that lie just so that I can talk about her, so I can feel like I'm associated with her. No. You're still supporting a liar. You're still supporting my enemy. Why would I see you as a friend? You're not a friend. You're my enemy. And so it is with Christendom. And so they did this. Totally changed it. Outlawed true worship, pure worship of our Creator in following the example of our Messiah. And then they limit what you can read about that Messiah to these 66 books that they call the Bible, and it becomes their idol. Because if it is not in here, no, I'm here, I'm with this structure, and I will only stay within these boundaries. That these people who made it illegal against the law to worship in the correct way. With just those 66 books, and some will actually extend it and allow, 88 books. However, so much of the Hebrew culture is honoring by obedient, following the traditions of their ancestors. I have Abraham as my father. You could not be sealed into the family of our Creator unless you were sealed into Abraham. But you wouldn't know that because you are limited to those books. When they talked about the Torah, the writings of the wise ones, the books of wisdom, they were not talking about the first 5 books of the Bible. They were not talking about the Old Testament alone. They were talking about the testaments of the 12 patriarchs. And this is what I'm talking about when I say coloring perception. So if you just have your little Christendom's Bible, what do you know about the patriarchs? They tried to kill their brother. They were dishonest, disloyal, immoral. One of them, his daughter-in-law, had to dress up like a prostitute because he knew his sons were spilling their seed on the earth, committing a sin, because they didn't want their firstborn to be inheriting somebody else's property. They wanted their firstborn to be their son that would inherit their property. So it's kind of like they didn't want their first fruits to be their brother's first fruits. They wanted their first fruits to be their first fruits. And so that's why they refused to sleep with this woman who was given to them as a wife. And it turns out she was faithful. She followed Torah. And Torah is not just the books in the Bible or in the Old Testament. It is all the writings of Enoch, of Ezra, of all of the prophets. They all wrote separately than what's in the Bible. And so we've had our perception colored. They're nothing to imitate. They're nothing special. They're just really bad. What we don't get is why the Hebrews relished their writings, because in here we learn the repentance that they did. Okay? They did penance for that. What they learned, to have an intimate knowledge and understanding the workings of spirits of within the body, how the spirits work within the body. It's profound what they had come to learn. Why? Because they were all of the order of Melchizedek. Jacob was taught by Shem. Okay? Just like his father Isaac and just like Abraham. They were all of the order of the ancients. They had regular practices, praying 3 times a day, communally, as a group, sharing meals. The problem with Lot was Abraham had gotten all these riches from going to war. Lot and a few others said, well, we kind of want our own share to go off and do our own thing. We're tired of being a part, under Abraham. It's just, like a young man may want to go establish his own home, his own things, and not be with mom and dad and working as a family. Whereas the reason immigrants are so successful in the United States is because if one has a car, they all have a car. And every new car is shared in the community until each person has their own car. They share housing. Okay, that's why they tend to be in the slums, is because they don't have to pay extra rent. They don't have to account for everybody. If somebody's having a hard time, come to grandma's house. You sleep on grandma's couch. Grandma's going to make sure you eat and you're taken care of. They take care of one another, whereas Westerners don't. So we lose a lot of that culture that would cause us to thrive and become a kingdom unto ourselves. Because those who are of the order of Melchizedek, who follow those spiritual practices, know how to access heaven and speak with our Creator in person, and thus be gifted with the ability to be used. So they don't sit there and say, there's too much rain, it's flooding, stop the rain. No, they pray to the Creator. They get permission to use these incantations or whatever. Remember, the Messiah, he did things like made mud and spit and to heal somebody's blindness. There's more to it than just, healing energy flows through you on command. You can move a mountain because you felt it needed to. No, anybody who uses this dominion, who exercises dominion without authority and permission from the Creator, is in violation. Like, that's it, you're evil, you're done. And so if you have the knowledge and understanding more deeply of the forefathers, you understand what it means to them who say, but I have Abraham as my forefather, I have Moshe, I have Moses as my forefather. This is why they use these, because that was the ultimate authority. That made them sons of our Creator, what in Christendom is called sons of God. So to claim you are a son of Elohim is to claim to be of the lineage of Melchizedek, to have been taught the spiritual practice of a priest king, a kingly priest. So they were priest kings. And so when the Messiah came, are you the son of God? Are you the son of Elohim? Are you a priest king? Are you of the order of Melchizedek? Do you know all the secrets that they knew? And this is what we strive to become, and we don't know it because we're in the boundaries of Christendom. And so our perception of the forefathers is they're insignificant. They're even worse sinners than I ever would be. I'm taking the once saved, always saved. I'll say a prayer of repentance to cover it because I ain't nearly as bad as these guys. Whereas somebody from a Hebrew background, and you go, and these are the things these are the things that people in the Middle East already know that Americans and Europeans, the Westerners, do not know. Alright, because they have Abraham as a common ancestor. I watched a video. It was very instructional. There was one thing that there was expanded information on. And so I said, great information. I can add this to affirm what, to clarify what you're expressing here. And one of the responses, it wasn't the creator's, response, although their response was left wanting. Somebody responded, Abraham's a liar. I'm just like, what random person in an apartment in New York City would know Abraham enough to call him a liar? And to want to, and to be engaged in, following these discussions, to try to steer people away from imitating and following in the footsteps of Abraham. It blows the mind, a Western mind like mine, who's stuck and limited, like, Abraham's insignificant. What's this random person on the internet need to slander and defame Abraham for? After thousands of years. Why? What's up with this? There's more there, people. There is more there. And you aren't going to get it if you're in Christendom. And you aren't going to get those everlasting lives in peace and justice and abundance. You're going to end up with the same people that you're limiting yourself to, the hypocrites who cheat on one another and then get forgiveness from the congregation and then go on and raise children who go about and do the same things, the ones who teach false beliefs, the ones who are celebrating holidays in imitation. Okay, you're dyeing your Easter eggs, putting your children in little dresses with floppy hats, little bow ties and suit jackets for the boys, and you're going to church and it's all innocent and fun while you're dyeing your Easter eggs. The elite are killing 3-month-old babies, dipping eggs in their blood and passing them out as tokens of luck. They're eating ham and they're mourning Tammuz. The Jews have a holiday mourning Tammuz. Tammuz is a false god. He's an evil dude. He was killed. And he was killed by a boar. And so that's why they eat pig. That's their victory over the one who killed their deity. So while you're eating your Easter ham, they're eating a pig, sacrificing babies, dyeing the eggs, and you're imitating, you're providing a shadow and support for what they're doing. You're moving with them while the Creator's people are moving in a completely different direction. They're following the feast. They have nothing to do with that. And so it's like a wide road, just scooping everybody up with them. Oh, what's the harm? It's Christmas. I'm going to celebrate Christmas. I'm going to celebrate Hanukkah. I'm going to celebrate Kwanzaa. I'm just going to celebrate them all so I can be accepted by everybody and show love in the way everybody does. Oh, just showing love to everybody, right? No. You're just saying, I consent to be swept away with the masses. Give me that wide road. And you're stuck with all these people who cannot stand you because you're not loyal to them. You're not loyal to any beliefs. What good are you? You have no loyalty. You can't be one of us. You're either with us, you're for us, or against us. We're in a world at war. You can't be trusted. You go off with anybody. You're unfaithful, unreliable. What do we want to do with you? Nothing. Nobody wants to do with that. So the coloring of perception happens when you limit the perspective available of a person. Somebody goes down, oh, I know her, she did this thing when she was, younger, blah, blah, she's no good. Completely disregarding how I've grown and what I've become since then, which is of so much greater value than dismissing me because you know something about me that somebody didn't approve of years ago. And so that's how it happens. That's how our perception gets colored, by being deprived of knowledge and understanding that would make us part of the order of Melchizedek, which our Messiah was. We're supposed to be like him. If he's of the order of Melchizedek, we want to be of the order of Melchizedek. What does that mean? We have help that goes beyond the biblical canon of Christendom. Okay? So, I thought that might be helpful insight and knowledge as to why the forefathers are so important to the Hebraic and Aramaic cultures, and why we might want to know about it so that we end up in the paradise instead of in Christendom's hell, because there's only two roads. And if you're celebrating the holidays, if you're believing in the Trinity, if you just can't get past that, then you can't get to everlasting life. Period. Point blank. The Father knows everybody, of course, knows the person who never had access to any of this information, but is kind, generous, charitable, honest, and all that. He's going to claim that one. You, however, if you're following Christendom and their ways, the broad path, you're going to have to find that out. And I hope it's not the hard way, because the hard way will be you won't have any other choice if time is up and you're still choosing the hard way. And I'm so grateful I stopped choosing the hard way. I found my spiritual paradise in truth, and I'm settled. Yay!